Hello everyone and welcome to the Peter Purves Podcast. Well, I'm going to have an easy time of it today because my guest certainly knows her onions. She's an audio record breaker, an actress, director and photographer, and I've worked with her on many occasions over the past 20 or so years. She's been involved with Big Finish from its earliest beginnings as a good friend. She is Lisa Bowerman. Hi Lisa, it's wonderful to have you with me on my podcast.
Oh, thanks, Peter. Good to see you.
Yeah, you're looking good.
And you too.
We have interacted quite a lot over the last 20 years.
It is.
I know that all the people listening will want to hear all about Big Finish, and it's been a very big part of your life. 27 years, is something else.
It's crazy, yeah.
I did my first one in 2006, I think, so that's only 20 years with all the stuff. I did nothing before that. So you were in at the very beginning, I think, of the company.
I was more by luck than good judgment, really. I'm recounted this more than once before, but I did Doctor Who on television back in 1989.
Yeah. What were you playing?
I was playing Kara, head of the Cheetah People in Survival.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I was covered in funfair on the hottest summer they'd had in years, riding a horse, which of course makes absolute sense to have the fastest creature on earth riding a horse, but we don't go there. And I got to know quite a few people, including Mike Tucker, who I'm sure you know as well, who was the one of the visual effects guys. A few years later, I was asked by him whether I'd be interested in playing this character called Bernice Summerfield. Never heard of her. And it turned out that I'd done a video called I Was a Doctor Who Monster, and I was interviewed by a gentleman called Gary Russell. And and so apparently when this company Big Finish started, it was Nick and Jason and Gary, and they'd all been mates since the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, I think. And they were looking for Doctor Who related material that they could use because they knew there was a market out there.
Yeah,
I think everybody, even you, must have been aware that was still,
I came to it late.
Oh, right. I wasn't aware of quite how big Doctor Who was. I worked with Mark Strickson in a play and an Ibsen at Salisbury in 85, and I was aware that he had fans and things like that. And then I was on tour a few years later, and I got a phone call from a random magazine asking me to do an interview, and I'd no idea there was any interest in this at all. By that time, Doctor Who had finished, it had been taken off the airwaves. So anyway, these chaps knew that there was a sort of potential market there for Doctor Who related productions. And I think they'd also had a company called Audio Visuals where they'd done sci-fi sort of Doctor Who, but using the Doctor Who actors in videos. So anyway, Mike Tucker, somebody had suggested me for this role of Bernice Summerfield. She was a very successful companion that had been created in all the New Adventure novels, which had come out after the series had finished.
Oh, right, yeah.
And when the Paul McGann movie came out, the BBC withdrew the rights from Virgin Publishing, who used to publish these New Adventure novels. And because they wanted to draw it all back in, because obviously they thought it was all going to carry on in 96. And as it turned out, they kept Bernice Summerfield on because she wasn't a BBC property.
Yes.
And as it turned out, she became terribly successful in her own right. None of this I was aware of at all. Anyway, cut to the chase. I was asked by Mike Tucker whether I'd be interested in playing this because it was for audios. I'd at that point done quite a lot of radio for Radio 4.
Yes, I've seen that, yes.
Radio 3, yeah, for drama. I was very lucky. I was never part of the rep, but I'd just fallen into it, and I'd had some nice parts. And so I was asked, well, initially I thought it was just being handed to me, and I've been quoted more than once to say I thought it was a bunch of fanboys with a Casio recorder in the front room, and I'll do it as a favour, that sort of thing. And the next thing I know, actually, it went terribly quiet. I think there was a problem trying to get the the rights from Virgin, and obviously it was Paul Cornell who created the characters, so there was lots of complications. It went terribly quiet. I think I'd told a couple of people there was a possibility I might be doing this. I'd even forgotten her name. I then went to see a friend of mine, Stephen Fuel, in a Shakespeare on tour, and he came bounding up to me. He said, "Are you playing Bernice Summerfield?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know, possibly. I've forgotten her name. Thank you." He said, "Oh, she's an icon. You've got to play her. I've read all the books." Now, this is an Oxford graduate we're talking about here. I'm thinking, okay.
Oh, yes. It takes all sorts.
It really does. Astrophysicist, you name it, And so anyway, I then ended up having to audition for this role. And I thought, well, okay. And I went to Nick Briggs' front room with a microphone apparently strapped to a broom handle or a vacuum handle or something, and I was thinking, what the hell is this? And read this slightly insane script set on the land of pantomime. Don't even go there. And the next thing I knew, I'd got this role. So I turned up, and we were in the most appalling studio. I hope you never worked there. It was in Elephant and Castle in a basement, and it was run by hippies and a slightly flea-bitten cat.
Yeah.
And it was damp and horrible. And with one microphone...
luckily I've not been there. No.
This is very early days, and there was one microphone in the middle of the room, and Alistair Locke in a corner with a DAT machine. I'd only ever worked with live recording, where you go in and out of the microphone, and you have a Foley lady or whoever next to you. Bring your hard bottom shoes. So all this post-production stuff, I thought, well, it's going to sound rubbish. So I did my bit. There were people who turned. I was very impressed because Nicholas Courtney was playing my cat as Wonder. And so I thought, oh, this is, and then some bloke called Mark Gatiss turned up. That was before it all kicked off. I know. And we all went to the pub afterwards, and he'd just done this telly. I said, "Oh, do tell me what I should look out for." He said, "It's called The League of Gentlemen." I said, "Well, keep an eye out for that."
Yeah.
So that was embryonic, and it went terribly well. Well done, Mark. And so anyway, to cut to the chase again, they came out, and I listened to them, and I thought, oh, okay. This sounds impressive, because it was very early days of digital recording.
Yes.
I thought I didn't have any notion about what post-production was going to sound like. Alistair Locke is genius at that point, because the kind of raw material he had to work with was extra, and it sounded like cinema in your ears. And I was thinking, oh, okay.
Yes.
So BBC heard them, apparently, said, okay, well, you can, if you pay us, you can have the license. So they got the license for the Doctor Who off Bernice Summerfield. And at that point, I thought, it's going to be the end of Bernice Summerfield. Goodbye, Bernice, because these guys, it's like their holy grail. They got their holy grail. And Gary, bless him, said, let's keep Bernice Summerfield on. So cut to now. It is now technically the longest running female-led drama in any medium.
I know, you're an absolute record breaker. Wow.
No, it's very niche. That's the problem. I wish more casting directors knew about it. But anyway, yes, and bless them. I've had such opportunities there. And of course, probably about 21, 22 years ago, I started some directing for them as well. So it's God bless them and everybody who serves in them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where I first came across you. But thinking about your earlier radio, you did quite a lot of radio work, but you were also a regular character in the first two series of Casualty.
I was. It is
the first female paramedic.
Well, the first paramedic, let's be honest.
Yes.
That was interesting. Actually, I can't give too much away. I'm actually meant to be taking part in the program The Reunion on Radio 4 in a couple of weeks' time.
Wow.
Because it is this year, it is 40 years. 40 years since the first series of Casualty. In those days, it was a 10-part series. When I first auditioned, it was basically they wanted somebody who could do a Bristol accent. It was very much Bristol-based, or Holby, aka Bristol, or the other way around, and somebody who could drive. That was in my recall, because I'd gone up initially, met a director, then I got a recall. I said to the researcher the other day, I turned up, and it said on the script, mute. And I thought,
that was the name of the character.
Mute. I mean, the most misnomer ever, And I went, so, okay. As it turns out, the role had actually been written for a man. and they decided at very late stages that they were going to change it to a female ambulance driver,
Yes.
or paramedic, as we were. We weren't quite so smart in those days. They've all these very snazzy jumpsuits now. We were just in nylon clip-on ties and shirts and terrible hats, which I never wore. And anyway, so I went to the audition. I got the role. Although I drive, obviously I'd never driven an ambulance before, and I'd asked whether I could have some sort of experience before I started shooting. I thought, I tell you what, I'll ring my local ambulance service. They thought I was joking. They just laughed at me down the phone. I go, no, what? Go away. Some actor, some random actor turning up.
No,
Going,
you can't.
No, absolutely not. So anyway, the Avon Ambulance Service, who were the ones supplying the ambulances for casualty, they said, we can give you an instructor maybe a week before you start. And I went, fine. The problem is he's not very well at the moment. I went, oh, fine. Well, I'll wait. Don't worry. So the time went on, and I rang them again. They said, "Yeah, unfortunately, he's still quite ill at the moment. So we'll get a date." It got later and later and later. I called again. Turned out he died. So I'm thinking, okay, right. I'm terrible. That's an awful, awful thing to have happened. I'm terribly sorry, but
not a good omen.
So, exactly. So anyway, I think I must look back at my old diaries. I think it must have been the day before I'd shot, or it was either the day before or the morning of my first shoot. There was a wonderful guy called, or there is, hopefully, Clive Hadrell, who was our ambulance advisor. And I got into the ambulance just for a test drive. It was a brand new ambulance. They'd only just taken delivery of it. And I drove the streets of Bristol. It didn't have any powered steering, but you were sitting right over the wheels. So it was, it was maneuverable. So I got on set. And the first thing they do is I don't know whether you've ever, you must have done filming in cars before they did all this stupid stuff with the backdrop stuff. It still, I think, looks terrible. Anyway, that's another story. I arrived and they'd put a gantry on the front of the bonnet with two lights, and then a huge crane gantry out of the side with a camera on it. Yeah. And my first shot was going down Ashton Hill, which is a really, really steep.
I know it. Yeah,
from Brunel College, where we used to shoot it, down there. And at the bottom there's a little mini roundabout. And I think my first one did about four takes, and there were 5 crew in the back. So we've got 5 crew: Bob Pugh, me, ambulance, script, and trying not to bump. And Clive Hadrell just went green when he saw it. Is that I can't do with this, but it's fine. I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, I like filming cars, but it's one of the hardest elements when you're creating something that you want to edit, because the backgrounds and everything else can be difficult. When I had my video production company, we often needed a car with couple in there talking, and we used to book a truck,
a low loader.
We were on the trailer, a very low loader, with the camera and everything. It's very stable and very good, and you can move your angles around and stop and change, and that was great fun. I liked that. I thought that was good. And of course the driver didn't have to drive.
But I mean, I do have to say, sometimes I've seen acting driving which is not very convincing. They're always kind of doing that. You're kind of go, you'd be all over the road. What are you doing? I have to say, I know some actors don't like working with. I love working with props because it takes you away from having to think about acting. And so the idea. I mean, all of our driving stuff was filmed live. I mean, I was driving the whole time. Did my own stunts, all that sort of stuff. And I quite like that challenge. I like that kind of stuff. And of course, we also, sorry to interrupt, we also had to do all the medical stuff. We used to have one, I think it was Saturdays, we used to do all our medical training. We had lovely Pete Salt, who I'll hopefully see in a couple of weeks' time, doing our advising. He was the charge nurse at the BRI. And he'd come back and he'd go, I've just seen a terrible intubation on EastEnders. We've got to get that right for when we do. And they got a new bit of kit, so we wanted to shove that in. So that was also quite entertaining.
Yeah, filming is interesting. I mean, it's good. I must say, I've never done non-linear work, so that's doing things out of sequence. I don't think I would actually like to do a big film. I mean, yes, I would, but
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I know
know
it.
that the process of doing it would not be as entertaining or as enjoyable as it used to be when we used to
Yeah.
all gather on the first
Yeah.
day of rehearsal. We would work the way through to the end, then we go in the studio and we recorded it. And that, to
Could
me, was a gem. That
yeah,
was
could
just lovely.
couldn't agree more. I mean, the irony is that the first series of Casualty was actually rehearse record. Sorry, it wasn't. It was multi-camera. So we did have rehearsals. We went to the
Oh,
good old Acton Hilton. It was
yes,
a
yes.
London-based production. We only did location on Bristol in the first series, and I mean, they'd be taking the sets up and down, and you'd slam the door, and everything would rock a bit. But
Yeah.
but having said that, I I mean, there are things I don't like rehearsal on. I actually, you probably know, when I do audios, I don't like rehearsals. I like to go straight in because
Yeah.
it's very spontaneous. People
But
don't have to
yeah,
worry about not remembering their
yeah,
lines,
yeah.
and you always have a choice about the first take and the second take, and you can mix and match. On telly, I've done a lot of hit and run television. That kind of turn up, say the lines, meet the actors for the first time, and bugger off.
You should, yeah, you
You know.
should, you should try 10.5 years of doing Blue Peter. That's
Well,
exactly what that was.
I can imagine. But the problem with that is that I always feel, especially, and I always say to drama students, the hardest thing in the world is going in with a small part, going in with 3 lines, because the tension is to get it right, to make
Yes.
your mark. And sometimes you've just got to forget all that and just say the line and go. It's
Yep.
absolutely impossible. And you've got one line and it's going around your head, and you get there and you trip up. And
Yes.
and it once you're in something regularly, it's much more relaxing. You forget the camera, you can get on and do the job.
Absolutely, yes.
It's a very tricky one, but what we're saying in terms of rehearsing, it's almost a dirty word in the entertainment industry now, rehearsals, and I really like them.
Yes.
I think it bonds your cast. I think if you want to be pretentious about it, and you have a relaxation. That's not to say you should over rehearse,
No.
or get bound up with too many things, but at least there's a familiarity to it.
Yes, absolutely.
So we had the first series was rehearse record on multi-camera, which doesn't really exist anymore, I'm sure you're aware. And then the second series, the whole thing went to Bristol, and it was all rehearse record. And we used to call it Spanish television because it was so quick. You used to say, "Sí, sí, señor," when things were we're a bit short of time or something. And well, I'm sure Spanish television's gone way ahead of us now. But anyway, back then, 40 odd years ago, and it's interesting. You could say in some senses there's a certain amount of spontaneity, but I don't think it really gives a lot of latitude to the actors.
No.
And I'm maybe a bit old-fashioned in that view. And of course, we were on location then completely. It was down in the studios in Bristol. They'd only just built them. They didn't even have a shower there. I mean, I think I had one shower between 20 of us, it was all a bit.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, things move on, things change. And of course, Casualty, when we thought it used to be very politically contentious in those days, where were questions in Parliament about us. We were cartooned in, because it was during all the BBC bias stuff. I think it was the Iraq War back then. And it was very difficult because obviously they were making a point about NHS funding, and the whole series was based on a nighttime shift. It was not
Yes.
that was the whole premise of it, and we were absolutely convinced that the whole thing was going to end. That was it. End of story. So which is one of the decisions that I made about to be killed off.
Yes.
Because it was my first ever telly. I'd not done telly before. I'd done a lot of theatre, and as far as I was concerned, a couple of people had left in the first series and just sort of disappeared. And I thought, no, I want to put a full stop on this. I want to make something of this. So that I had weeks of people walking around going, "Are you serious? Are you absolutely serious about this?" And I said, "Yeah, I think I am." And I got my way eventually. Actually, I mean, it was actually quite. The subject matter is now quite relevant. Now it's about violence towards emergency services.
Yes. Very relevant.
It's a hot topic, and even back then, it seems ludicrous when you think about it. In reality, why would you attack an emergency service?
Yes.
Bizarre.
I've never understood that.
No,
Never.
neither have I. Complete mystery. And so it had a big impact. And it turns out my last episode went in over 10.5 million viewing figures. So I don't know whether that was, God, thank God she's gone, or I actually think, although the decision might have made a difference. I think by that time, the writers had found their style.
Yeah.
They'd found their voice. As I've been saying to quite a few people, we're not at that point, we're not used in this country to a team of writers like they are in America, where you could get lots and lots of characters bubbling along for a long time. And I was called, I mean, one of the reasons I decided to go, I was called in by the producer Geraint to say, do you want to go back to guesting? Because it turns out Bob Pugh and I's characters were quite popular. So they'd written us up, but they realized they couldn't balance everybody out fairly. And I mean, that's one of the decisions I made, rightly or wrongly.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how it's grown into, I mean, you could say it's grown into more of a soap element. I mean, they'd introduced this ridiculous romance between us two paramedics, which was absurd. But, you know, at the same time, it's the association with the characters. It's like any good drama. You've got to follow the characters and like the characters and be interested in enough in them to follow them. So
all of the long-running series are essentially soaps.
Yeah,
whether
I
it's
think
10 episodes in a series or 50 or whatever. They're all soap operas in one way or another. And I don't mind them. I don't watch them. I mean, it's not my bag. I don't do it.
I think I mean, this might be a controversial opinion. I think that television companies have been over-reliant on them in the last 40 years, because when I came into television, there were a lot more single dramas. There were a lot more opportunities to have separate voices and fantastic stories, you know, Play for Today, Wednesday Play, all of those wonderful series. And at some point, somebody thought, oh, actually, soaps are once we've got the setup and the actors in, it's a relatively cheap version. And what's happened is that from my point of view, I think it's one of the reasons I don't watch them. I think it's the law of diminishing returns, because the more you concentrate on that one soap, the stories have to become even more dramatic in order to keep that audience interest.
That's right.
And the problem with that is that it becomes slightly unrealistic and schlocky. And, you know, I genuinely think that there's, once you start increasing the numbers of episodes a week, you're in a hiding to nothing.
Yes.
Because the stories then become more over the top and more dramatic, or you know, and the only way to make things more dramatic is to make them more violent, or to make them, you know, and I think that it's self-defeating. But that's just my opinion, really.
I want to go back to talking about Big Finish.
Yeah.
Not about the company particularly, but about the way you worked, because you not only did Bernice Summerfield very successfully for a long time, but in my experience, I think probably I think I've done about 37, 38 Big Finish stories about the First Doctor and the early companions.
Yeah.
You are a very precise director, and I know what you were saying about not rehearsing. I mean, I always felt that the first take, which I know that's how we worked, was a rehearsal, but you often used it.
Yeah, because you never know what you get.
Exactly. And I think that was a very clever move on your part. But I always felt that we were fully rehearsed. I was very happy when each scene was over. I can't remember coming out of those recording booths and thinking, I'm not sure about that. I really loved it.
Oh, thank you.
One of the things I loved particularly was playing Bill Hartnell.
You were so good at that. I think I can only see it from a point of view of being an actor. I mean, I'm quite, I suppose I'm quite a quick actor. I don't need hours of analysis and what I do is I've got to trust the actors that I cast to do their work before they come into the booth. So you hope that, you know, you send them the script and they'll have looked at it. They can contact me anytime to discuss, you know, voices, or I mean, obviously away from the people who are playing themselves from the original. And you trust your actors. I'm a great believer that 98% of any success of anything is in the casting.
Yes.
That's one of my absolute joys, is getting the right person for the right job opposite the right
funnily
person.
enough, that was going to be my next point. You seem to have a knack of being able to bring in exactly the right person at the right time. I remember a lovely trilogy we did of Simon Guerrier's,
Oh, with
with
Tom. Yeah.
Tom
Tom
Allen,
Allen. Yeah.
which is it really was one of my favourite pieces altogether.
Good.
But he was so perfect for that, and I like to think we were good at it. But he, it was terrific. It was such fun to do, and it was such a clever series.
Oh, it
Simon Guerrier
was.
is a very clever man.
Simon's a great writer. I'd also done a lovely trilogy with Jean Marsh as well, which was equally wonderful. He's
Yes.
very clever at world building, terribly clever. I'm when it comes to actors, I've always been known, even since I was very young, as a bit of an actor geek. One of my middle brother is an actor as well, and I suppose because I'd been brought up on the diet of television in the 60s and 70s, it wasn't a case of being a fan. It was a case of knowing people and their work and
Yes.
enjoying
Yeah.
actors and just getting it, And I'm a bit like a kid in a sweet shop because, of course, it's a huge industry. I mean, it's a relatively small industry, but a huge industry at the
Yes,
same time. So
absolutely.
I do rather famously have a little black book. So if I see people I like, I will make a note of them. It doesn't necessarily mean to say they're great at audio. You've got to be quite selective. I do use Spotlight to its last degree because I will go through voice reels. I will go through, when I look at the background of a character. Sometimes I need actors who can do multi voices, but convincingly,
Yes. Yeah.
there are some geniuses out there when it comes to that. And I like matching people with roles, and it's one of the joys. I love it. It's like making magic, and occasionally you sit there and you go, oh, I love it when a plan comes together, when the first scene and you go, got nothing to worry about.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always work out, but most times.
I was going to say, when we actually did the recordings each time, I remember seeing the first scripts that I ever did, and they have stage directions, which you've got to make happen in sound. When I listen to the Big Finish productions, the sound design is something bewilderingly clever.
Those guys. Oh,
how does this happen? How involved were you with that?
Well, I will. We're all allocated different sound designers, and once I've got all the dialogue done, I actually don't come on. I don't like coming on board at the dialogue edit because you can only tell what it's like against the sound effects. That's before the music comes on board.
Yeah.
I like to hear the dialogue against the timing of the effects, when the timing is right, when the timing is not quite right. And things that have maximum effect. I do feel sorry for some of the sound designers because you get things like a giant marshmallow volcano has just gone off, and suddenly you kind of go, what?
Exactly. Yeah.
I suppose they have as much fun as we do, but it is completely crackers. You've got to be careful with things like voice filters for computers, all of that sort of stuff. My job in studio is to read the sound. To read the notes, to read the directions, because you can get people talking at a normal conversational level and something's going off in the background and you go, no, we need to hear you against that. So really pitch it up.
Yeah.
Our advantage these days is digital recording. So when we were talking about first and second takes, we don't have to worry about some poor chap in a back room with a pair of scissors and a bit of tape. Those guys were geniuses in the old days.
Absolutely.
I mean, the amount of technical know-how to splice sound and making notes and those little chalk marks. And that so actually these days, I would never say it's easy, but I would say that it has eased up.
Easier.
Much easier. And also it means you can take out any problems. There are so many little bits of software that can take out glitches and S's and
sorry, carry on. You were saying something interesting.
No, it's the same thing. And so in post-production, occasionally I'll try and do it on the spot, but occasionally you will ask for an editor put in a couple of beats between a word to give it more impact, or to squeeze to make it an interruption to pick up the pace. Generally, I try and do that in studio, but the good thing is in digital recording, you can do it like that.
Yeah.
So I give notes to the sound designers on that front.
I remember on several occasions we worked with Jean Marsh,
Oh,
and Jean was wonderful, but towards the end,
yeah.
she always had a slightly strange delivery pattern. But that aside, towards the end for her, she really couldn't make lucid sentences. It was like she was almost dyslexic. But you recorded her, and all the words were there, and somehow, in the finished result, she is absolutely fluent, and
And
it's
it's
quite remarkable. And
it
I'm
is.
glad, because it
Yeah.
would be awful for,
Yeah.
you know, it wouldn't do her any good, bless her heart. But it was always amazing to me that that could be done.
Well, I mean, we've worked with a lot of actors at very, very late stages of their life who have the ability, but not the kind of, I would say, energy but well, the mental ability to be able to stick it together, because the interpretation will be brilliant, but there may be hesitations here and there, and trip ups, and the magic of audio is extraordinary. I mean, to take an extreme example of that, I did 14 series or 13 and a half series of Jago and Lightfoot with Christopher Benjamin and Trevor
Right.
Baxter.
Yes.
Brilliant series, loved it. Sadly, we lost Trevor before we were just about to start season 14, series 14, and with permission of his estate and for Chris Benjamin as well, who was very close to Trevor, the brilliant Paul Morris wrote a script that we could pick out bits of dialogue from previous episodes and put it into what was called Jago and Lightfoot Forever, and it was like a tribute to Trevor, and it was
fantastic.
extraordinary and touching, and I hope with a lot of respect, because we would never have done it if anybody had thought it was ghoulish or whatever. I mean, segueing slightly, I am still a little bit iffy about AI reproductions of dead actors' voices. I know some people have licensed their voice. I find it slightly. Yeah, let's have another generation of older actors who would like to do it.
Yes, I would hope so. I mean, yes, it frightens me, the whole AI thing.
Yeah, that's a whole kettle of fish.
They don't actually need us now. I've got a lot of friends who originally were in advertising back in the 60s and 70s. And of course, they would spend a week doing a commercial. They can be done in half a morning.
Well, you can be done at half a morning in your front room with this.
Absolutely.
This setup,
it's really just quite extraordinary. So the industries are going to lose the people that can do it. I mean,
they are already.
Well, exactly. I'm very conscious of the fact that the way our directors worked on things like Doctor Who and Z-Cars and everything else, there's no one around now who can do that.
No, not to the technical extent. No, we're losing skills, but I'd say that's across the board. Not only in performance, in post-production, in design, everything I do as a side hustle from acting, whether it be directing or photography, is I've been affected by AI, because you cannot police what is being stolen. And it's basically, it's not new intelligence. It's just an amalgamation of other people's work, stolen work. And trying to police that is almost impossible. So we're slightly, I mean, I know Dear Old Equity are trying to battle it, but I do hope we're not in a losing game here, because at the moment I don't approve of companies who decide not to use human beings. I think it's unless, especially in creativity, because our raison d'etre is to reflect human emotion and human nuance, and
I find it so scary. So scary.
Yeah, and there are always suggestible people who fall for all the rubbish online anyway. So sorry. Thanks.
You mentioned during that about being a photographer, which of course I'm aware you were and are, because you always took very good pictures to publicize each of the productions we did. I mean, they were very simple photographs in many ways, but they were good group photographs. So you don't get those very well all the time. And you had good actors doing them. And you patently enjoy it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you do all the practical things as well? Well, you don't need to quite so much these days, but did you?
I did. I never trained in photography. I started at drama school, actually. I did art.
So that was at Bristol, wasn't it?
Bristol Vic, that's right.
Yeah,
I did do art A level, so I draw and paint, and I think I know how to compose a photograph. And I started taking photographs at drama school purely because I was sick and tired of seeing people ripped off for really bad headshots. I kept on thinking, well, I could do this. I can give this a go. So I got a camera for my 21st. An old boyfriend of mine taught me how to, do things and in terms of the technical bits and bobs, f-stops and shutter speeds. And then there happened to be a darkroom actually at Bristol Old Vic for the stage managers, and one of the guys showed me how to develop my own stuff. The problem was I became a bit too popular, so we were worked very, very hard at Bristol. We had 7 directing students. There were only 4 girls in my year. Remember that? There were only 4 because that was the ratio of employment. So we were doing all these shows. We were doing the final year show. We were doing the audition show, and then I was the rest of the time in the darkroom doing people's headshots, and it was lovely. I was very lucky when I left college. I didn't need a second string. About 6 years in, I hit a brick wall, like most people do, especially girls when you hit 30, and I started taking headshots. I don't know whether it's essentially a British thing, but the problem was, I mean, the advantage was I knew a lot of actors. The problem was I became too successful and everybody thought I'd given up acting. And it was like, oh, have you thought of changing your name? And by that time, it was like bolting the door after the horse had gone, And so I carried on for many years. Digital really hit me sideways because I was a black and white film for many years, and then digital came along. Everybody started taking their own photographs. By that point, actually, the novelty had worn off hugely, and I'd kind of had enough. And everybody else was. There's a book apparently. One of my sister-in-laws told me about a book called "Who Ate My Cheese." When you're very big, when you're very big in one area, and then suddenly everybody starts coming in, and I was getting less and less work.
Yeah.
That's ironically when the directing started to kick off. So actually one sort of took over from the other. But photographs, I'm still taking the odd headshot. And I do love going to places. I mean, the problem is that every time I go to places, I want to make it look really, really good. So I can't really do snapshots. But having said that, the mobile phone cameras now are so good.
Yes.
But you actually could have it in your pocket and do something half
Yes.
decent. And so I can do my own editing. I do Photoshop if I need to, although I don't like over Photoshopping people. I think it's, that's not terribly helpful. But that's just the way things go with everybody filtering themselves. I mean, that's a whole other can of worms I could go on about. Anyway.
Everything needs as must be, but which of your major elements are you fondest of? Directing, acting.
It's what I always wanted to do.
It's a strange bug, isn't it? Yeah, I've never lost it.
It really is. No, never. I don't think anybody ever does.
No, I've wanted to be a proper actor all my life. And of course, 10.5 years of Blue Peter took me right out of the sphere, and no one ever considered me again.
But you're doing a bit more acting now, though, aren't you, Peter?
Very little. I'm offered a lot. I've got 3 films on offer.
Well, that's pretty good.
It's lovely. They've got no money.
No, this is the problem.
This is the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Getting the money together is the thing. And I would be very happy with each of the films. And I did a whole recording for nothing of a pilot for a television series, which 2 years ago now, and I haven't seen a single frame of it.
No.
The producer and director will not let us see any of it.
There's a real problem. I think maybe it's internationally, but there always used to be a bit of a joke in this country that if you're signed for a film, a British film, and it's all going ahead, you cannot guarantee it ever going ahead until there is money. And more often than not, I mean, my late partner, he would be ready and willing to start filming, and then a week before, we've lost the money. Goes.
Yes.
So you can never guarantee. You think, great, I'm doing films, it's very exciting. You can never guarantee it until you've signed on that dotted line and they have that money in the bank. And the problem is, it's such a subjective world, this entertainment world, and you cannot guarantee that you are going to please all the people all the time. And
or any of the people any of the time.
Exactly. And also, it was a bit of my problem with television at the moment is that they're so desperately trying to attract different demographics that what they do is that they just end up making slightly safe, slightly predictable television aiming at a particular group rather than picking up a script going, this is great writing, we have to make it. The instinct you used to get in television in the 60s and 70s from individuals, making not a group decision, not a committee decision. You get those individuals who said, well, I don't understand this, but I think this is just well written, let's make it. That would not happen these days. No. And trying to get people with money to say, trust these people to do what they do best is very, very difficult.
Yeah. Who'd be a director?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and also because you've got, especially the advantage of being in audio is there are very few people standing over your shoulder going, don't do it like that. Yeah. I mean, the stories are rife amongst my television director acquaintances of executive producers just saying, enough, don't do it like this. Why are they doing it like this? You know, and you go, well, just trust me, let me do my job.
Well, I knew when we started that you would talk a lot because you do, but I love listening to it. I want to hear more of it, but I'm afraid we're out of time.
That's fine.
But we can do it again. If I ask you, will you come on again?
Of course I will.
Lovely, that will be fine. It'll be sometime later in the year, but I mean, we'll let people have a break from it. And then, but yes, absolutely lovely. Lisa Bowerman, bless you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Well, I trust you enjoyed listening to Lisa, and the podcast was brought to you courtesy of all my Patreons, and with particular thanks to my silver and gold badge Patreons, Oliver and the Doctor Who Collectors podcast, Phil Verco, and Martin Lockie, Alex Coffetzoglu, John Hesketh, Toby's Name, and Andy Kitchen. If you've enjoyed it, please comment and subscribe if you can. And I trust you can always find my pods wherever you get yours. Until the next time, adieu.